I've got to tell you a story before we get started. I think I was about 8 years old. I'm not exactly sure, but I've kind of centered in on that time frame. And my birthday is a bad time of the calendar. My birthday is December 1st. So, just a few weeks before Christmas, with a family that was not super well off, not poor, but, having, buying birthday present and Christmas present didn't happen very often. There'd be something there every birthday, absolutely. But it wasn't all that great. And my parents felt kind of bad about that. And one particular year, I think it was the year I was 8 years old, they decided they were going to do something big for me. Now, in those days, I don't know if it's true anymore. I'm going to find out real soon because our family is increasing this year in May and in June with 2 grandchildren. Mothers are here this morning. And children are here this morning too, but we just haven't met them yet. But in those days, big toys were the big thing. I mean, and as a guy, which I have been since as far back as I can remember, as far as I know, forever, I like guy things. Now I had an older brother, and what my brother and I would do was we had this massive collection of these little bitty figurines of army guys from the various wars within humankind. I mean, we had some World War II guys. I think we probably had a few World War I guys, but I don't think that was all that popular. We had some Civil War guys. We had some Revolutionary War guys. We had some medieval knights and all that kind of stuff. And my brother and I, and then we had other toys, and then, of course, all the building blocks and so forth. And we would set up these massive wartime games, right? Now, I don't know why. I realize now in my older age, it probably had to do with the fact that my brother was 3 years older than I am. I never won that war. It didn't matter which era I had the soldiers. I'd go for the modern guys, and his medieval guys would beat me. I would go for the medieval guys, and his modern guys would beat me. So I really, really wanted the Fighting Lady. Now, the Fighting Lady, if you are a World War II historian, you would know immediately, is the USS Yorktown, which now has been decommissioned and sits in a harbor down in Charleston, and you can go and you can walk on it, which I did, which was a pretty cool thing to do as an adult, and go, wow, this is cool. But at the time, they had this ship called the Fighting Lady, big plastic piece of, toy. The thing was this big, and it had depth charges, and it had missiles, and it had all kinds of sights and sounds, which, if my calculation is correct, this is about 1959 or 1960. So this is big stuff back in those days. It's what I really wanted. I really didn't expect it, and especially not for my birthday. So I can still remember to this day, it was, time for opening the presents, and then we're going to have dinner. I'm sitting in the living room, and I sit down, and as usual, I get this small little package, for my, and I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and I open it up, and it's a pack of C-size or D-size batteries, 4 of them. And I'm like, thanks, Mom and Dad. Really, I'm sure I'll find some use for this someday, right? And they said, oh, wait, the other part of it is in the front hall closet. And I went in there, and here's this gigundous box, and I'm just like, whoa. I had some inkling that something was going to happen, that they really wouldn't give me just batteries for my birthday. But it wasn't until I went and I opened the door in the front hall closet that I saw the box and went, wow, the Fighting Lady. I was probably up till, 1 or 2 in the morning trying to figure out all this stuff, and you had to put things together in those days. I know what you're thinking, Pastor. What in the world does this have to be a nice little story? There's a word that has come to a whole new meaning through Christianity. The word is apocalypse. Now, what came into your mind when I said apocalypse was end of the world, right? It's the apocalypse. It's Armageddon. It's interesting that the Greek word from which we get the word apocalypse means revelation. That's why the last book of the Bible, really, its name is the Apocalypse of Jesus Christ. It's not the Apocalypse. The name of the book comes from the first verse, the first words of the first verse. The revelation of Jesus Christ. The apocalypse of Jesus Christ. Because you see, that's what's going to happen in the last days. It's the revelation of Jesus Christ. The root meaning of the word comes from the idea of something being uncovered. I don't know if they still do it. And where's Matt? Matt, see, I don't know where people are now. We moved the chair arrangement around, and I know you probably all felt a little confused when you went, oh, wait, where's my seat? Just kind of changing it up a little bit. Matt would probably know this because I know he's a car aficionado. But it used to be, in the old days, on the car show, Detroit would have a big show, and they would have the latest model, and they would have it undercover. Do they still do that? Really? Wow. They would have it undercover, and then at the moment with the band and the balloons and maybe some birds or whatever, they would lift the veil off and you would go, oh, looks the same as last year. That's the idea of this word, apocalypse. The unveiling. The moment that the curtain opens up and you actually see what has been behind that curtain all this time. But you see, what happens in the last days is not the only revelation of Jesus Christ or the only revelation from God. Paul uses the word several times. In the book of Romans, he uses it. In the book of Ephesians, he uses it, talking about the revelation that was hidden from times past, but has now been made aware for all of us to know that the Gentiles are included in God's plan of salvation. That was Paul's big message, one of them. And it was the revelation, the unveiling of this truth.